Hello and welcome to the Full Figured Interviews, where we talk to some of the incredible people in our Full Figured community. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it.
Today we're speaking with the Full Figured Industry Awards 2024 Outstanding Makeup Artist, Naïsha Yolande.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Doing good. My voice unfortunately hasn't come back from the flu that I had a week ago, but hopefully it'll be back next week.
That's the worst part when having the flu or bronchitis is always the voice and the cough that lingers.
I've never had it last this long before, and my will to speak is quite strong, so this is very annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But we are otherwise doing fine here, so Tim will make sure to defer to you where you've got things that you want to be bringing up in this chat. But Naïsha, baby, are you ready to get into it all?
Yes, I am.
Fabulous. Well, listen, first question I think that is pertinent to ask here for anyone who is unfamiliar with you. What would you say is the first thing you want viewers to know about you?
Of course, I'm a makeup artist. A lot of people think that I'm still like a model. I mean, I started off behind the scenes in the model industry, and then I quickly transitioned over to being a makeup artist. That was more my passion. And then also, while I was, beginning my modeling, the lack of makeup artists available for models was like, So I'm strongly on the makeup artist side. So a lot of people think that I'm not a makeup artist, but I'm really it.
I love hearing that. You know, it's interesting. I feel like a lot of the people we've spoken to through this series are kind of people who wear multiple hats. Maybe
Mhm.
you've won the category, makeup artist, but actually, she's model, she's done all this. And, I think that speaks to the power of the truly talented individual. Yes, of course, we're here, we're representing, we're doing what we know to do well, but also, baby, there are other things on the dossier. There are other skills hidden there that maybe you weren't aware of. And we're
Mhm.
hopefully going to get to dig into some of those today.
Yes. There's many little hats that I have.
Yeah, just a little, what do you call them? You wear it to like the horse racing. What do you call that, Tim? Fascinator. Little
Yes.
fascinators that you wear.
Of course.
Well, let me put this to you. You mentioned modeling. What are some other little hats that you wear from time to time?
Well, I'm a Jane of all trades. One of the biggest things, though, I am an advocate for moms and parents who have children with autism spectrum disorder or developmental delays. I'm a huge advocate for that. As my daughter, she was 18 months. She was first originally diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And then at her 3-year-old evaluation, she actually had that ASD removed. So she was just severely speech delayed, developmental delayed with speech. She's still in speech therapy and she has the vocabulary. She's in kindergarten. She has the vocabulary of a third grader. She taught herself how to read and everything. And so, we worked very hard to get her where she is. So I'm a huge advocate because a lot of parents don't know of the resources that are out there, the resources that are free, hopefully remain, free and available because, and it varies by state, but a lot of people don't know. They think you have to have health insurance, to get therapy, whether it's ABA therapy, speech therapy, occupational physical therapy. And up to a certain age, it's covered, fully funded by the states. So, different states varies, and then some states have a waiting list, but a lot of parents don't know. And then a lot of parents are afraid to make that step for their children because of the stigma that is on them already. But, it's more so for the child to develop and, be independent because they're going to get older and, you want them to have as much independence and availability to express themselves and also be able to express themselves, especially not just when things are good, but when things are bad as well.
Wow. I think that's so critical and important. I'd love to hear more about it. I mean, though, quickly to defer to you here, Tim, for a second. I know that as a trained nurse, maybe a lot of your experiences with elderly patients, but as maybe deferring here quickly on the notion of in healthcare, like, is there much of a conversation around navigating patients who have autism or learning difficulties and things like that?
I mean, in some settings that I've been in, no, but now that I'm working in a school, I'm seeing a lot more of it. And there are and like she was saying, there are programs that do exist, and sometimes people don't always know about them. I don't necessarily know a lot about them either because that's more handled on the social worker side
Hmm.
of things. Like for nurses, we handle the body, you know, like whatever's going wrong with you. That's and even in when I've worked with a senior population, sometimes family members have questions about what resources exist for the elderly, and I don't always know that either because again, it's really not something that they cover in nursing school. If you want to become a social worker, that's usually where they start covering all of that.
I mean, let's go there then. Take it back to when you first received that initial diagnosis. What do you think you wanted to know then that would have helped you, I guess, process this and start on that journey of giving your child the access to all the things that they need to move through this most thoroughly?
You know what? Back then, honestly, I didn't know much. And when she was in the height of it all, we were in the height of the COVID pandemic. Literally, the shutdown I remember was like March 13th or something like that. Her 1 year old birthday was March 29th, had a big party planned. And I'm like, okay, my daughter, she's about to be one. She's not even saying hi. She's not even saying mama. Like, it was nothing. And then, of course, I'm still in the industry of health insurance. So I still had to work. Even though it was from home, I still had to work. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting my daughter in front of a TV just so I can work. And I even remember like calling, like, there's nothing you guys can do? Like, we don't know what's going on. I can't sit my child in front of a TV all day. But so that also gave her some regression. And then when I was finally able to take her to the doctor was like, oh, she'll grow into it. She's still young. She was almost 18 months now at this point. So the pandemic happened right before she was one. Now she's a little bit over one, and I'm just like, something's not right. She was like, well, I'll still give you this paper. You can figure it out. And basically, that's what I did. In New York, they have like a 311 number you can call, and I called the 311. They sent me to a center or gave me a center, and I just went with, everything they had. They said, we have to do an evaluation and all this stuff. So I actually was learning as I was going. And it wasn't up until she had her one-on-one teacher. This was now the third teacher by this point, and she was phenomenal. She's the one who got her to where she is at, and I give her all the praises to her because she was like, nope, she needs more hours. She needs ABA. She was just getting, special ed one-on-one. She said, no, she needs a more aggressive therapy. So a lot of parents don't know. They might just have their child evaluated and they put the evaluation report red flags, but they're not giving them the more aggressive therapy. So I would say that would be the most key point, being the best advocate for your child and making sure that if you feel like something is off, go with how you feel because you know your child and you know what's best for your child. So that would be the thing.
Is there, like, in the United States, is there like a website that you would recommend that people maybe go to learn more, or a program that people could check out that maybe is available to maybe just do some cursory research to get a little bit more knowledge around the thing?
As far as the websites, every state has like a 211 or 311. That would be the number that you can call to find a lot. And of course, the internet search works wonders. And also, a lot of times, again, I work in healthcare, so I get a lot of calls from people who children have ASD or delays in these services. And then I look at the age and I'm like, you have insurance, but your state also has funding for you to have these programs because a lot of them stress out. There's no availability or they can't find certain things. So I would say probably, by state, either 211 or 311, whichever number it is, to call that and you can ask them and they can give you resources that's available. And then also using, internet search as well to find what's available in the state. And there's different laws, which I learned the other day that if your child is in like a daycare setting or a center setting and they don't have cameras, certain states have laws where you can request to have cameras in where your child is. Yes. So the Program may not have it, but if you request to have it, by law, certain states have laws where they have to put cameras in those areas where your child has developmental needs. They would have cameras.
Absolutely. But bringing it around to centering yourself and talking about your accolades here in this conversation, you are a gorgeous, full-figured woman, as I think so many of us representing in this community love to feel good in ourselves. I'd like to ask you here, how did you learn to come and find the love and pride that you have for your body?
That definitely took a lot of inner work. It takes a lot of inner work because it's not about what you see on the outside or what people see on the outside. It's really about how you feel on your inside, and that exudes on the outside. Because imagine looking like how you felt on the inside. So if your inside is feeling wonderful, it's feeling fabulous, it's feeling vibrant, it's feeling confident, that's going to show on and represent on the outside. Whether you're big, whether you're small, whether you're short, whether you're tall, how it is on the inside will definitely show on the outside. So that also plays a part in with me wearing makeup. It could go two ways. I could be feeling like who did it and ran on the inside, but if my makeup, is up to par, and then how I'm dressed is up to par, that may also change how I feel on my inside. So I think it works kind of both ways. How I feel on my inside will show on my outside, but also how I present myself, how what I can put together on the outside to make me feel better on the inside. So that's my little tidbit.
You know, I would almost relate it to the conversations people have around physical health and mental health.
Yes.
Because so many people who, shall we say, talk down conversations around mental health. Oh, that's just all in your head. It's all made up. It's all this, that. Baby,
Right.
my brain is a physical thing.
Right.
So the mental health is actually still physical health. We're just talking
Hmm.
about a specific realm in which it enacts. And so, relating it back to what you were saying about beauty inside and outside, I think sometimes when people maybe pass off makeup and they say, well, you don't want to do all that, you want to focus on how you're feeling on the inside. Yes, but also your outside is attached to your inside. So
Hmm.
doing something that is for the outside can affect
Right.
the inside because it's all interconnected.
That makes perfect sense. It's also like I had this thing where I lost a lot of weight, and I was like, I mean, I'm still full figured, but I was bigger than what I am now. And I lost a lot of weight, and I'm like, I like the way I was when I was bigger than what I am. So it's like it also has to do with the mental. Like your mental has to be there, to have that confidence again, no matter what size you are.
And speaking of being confident in your body, what's your relationship with some of the other terms like curvy, thick, voluptuous? And is fat triggering?
That is not triggering for me. For me, it's not. For some people it is. And I'm just like some people don't like to use the word fat. And I understand it, but you can say full figured, you can say BBW, curvy, thick. I feel like plus size or full figured, big and tall is always safe. But it don't really matter to me which word, but it is what it is.
Well, and you're based in New York City, right?
Yes.
So what distinguishes New York City makeup artists or makeup trends rather, sorry, makeup trends from like the rest of the country? Like what are you going to see in New York City that you're not going to see anywhere else?
Maybe a couple years ago, you could have said, if you're in Atlanta, you're going to see, well, no, let me take that back because Atlanta, you'll still see a lot of more heavy makeup, but a lot of people have learned to do their own makeup. We have a lot of YouTube University, TikTok, all the media outlets. So a lot of people have learned to do their makeup, and a lot of makeup artists in the makeup community are coming more together as far as what type of glam makeup this is. And that has been a thing that has been different. But in New York, whether it's New York, California, Atlanta, I feel like it's becoming more universal in a look, because now we have social media and they're like, this is the look that I want. So this is it's everywhere now. So a lot of makeup artists, no matter where you are, is kind of putting it all together, no matter the region.
That's interesting. I feel like maybe there's a broader cultural conversation piece around, and I don't want to say like homogenization, like everything begins to kind of look the same, but I think maybe there is a piece to be said that people want the one look, and it's the one look that everyone has because everyone wants to look, and it's not a bad look, but there
Hmm.
maybe is something to be said that it's not always the most distinct. That not necessarily good or a bad thing, but I suppose maybe that just brings it out for people who want to find that distinct look. Maybe you got to find people who know how to make that look tweaked and
Hmm.
give it its own little bit of panache, right? Um, Feels like that comes up in conversation around like fashion and even in terms of things like food production and things like that. Like everything kind of looks like it's made by the same person now. People are
Hmm.
like, "This is my family recipe, my original," and I'm like, "This just looks like every other food trend on TikTok."
Right,
You
right.
know what I mean? Like, I think it's kind of happening everywhere a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
but centering on you, my love, what would you say discerns your style and your particular taste when it comes to makeup?
So my style is, you're still looking like yourself. I don't know really how to say it. That's what people, everyone whose makeup I've done, not just in the full figured industry, but when they look at themselves, when they see it, they're like, wow, I still look like myself. I still feel like myself, but you just brought out the features in me. So that's my thing. It's like, yes, I can do the Instagram aesthetics. I can do the heavy cakes on, but that's just not my style. I'm not gonna, if you ask me for it, yeah, I can do it. But I'm still going to just enhance your beauty rather than just take on some foundation and put on a lot of powder, a lot of highlight, and throw on a red lipstick. That's not my thing. But I'm still going to have you feeling beautiful with my application.
I love that. What was your relationship with makeup and creativity growing up?
Well, I used to sneak into my mother's makeup. That's
What
where it
would you?
all started.
But what'd you go for?
That,
Were you a lipstick
oh,
girly? Like what caught your eye?
I would always grab the mascara. Mascara was the thing. I always wanted my eyes to just open up and my lash. Back then, I had natural lash, but I would always grab the mascara, and I always remember my mom had a black liner, and it's like, hmm, let me put this on. And my mom has a beauty mark right here, and I would just like put a little beauty mark there so I can look like my mom. My mom's very beautiful, and that's where it all started. Just sometimes that's where a lot of things start. You dabble in something you're not supposed to be in. It's very intriguing, but that's really where it started. Mom's makeup bag.
That's gorgeous. I feel like we've also had this conversation with a few of these chats. We talked to Tonja about, playing with Play-Doh as a child, right? And it's just this thing of sometimes you just get drawn to the nature of being creative and like it just does something to the human mind. And I think it's wonderful to see this incredible through line of, giving your child space to express, be creative, even if you're sneaking in, even if you're playing in bags, you're not supposed to be it. Like you still clearly had this desire to engage with, and to that point, was it always makeup? Like from that moment, did you kind of know that makeup was where you wanted to go?
No, actually, my mom has 5 kids. All of them, all of us are artists in our own aspect. Either we draw, sing, rap, or write and do makeup. So I actually started as a writer. I used to write my own stories. I used to have a chair in the corner, either writing or reading books. That's really where I thought I was going to be. I was writing poetry and doing all that stuff. So I never thought that doing makeup was going to be my zhuzh at that time.
No, I love it. I, but what is it you think that took you into makeup as the career choice?
What took me into makeup as the career choice is when I was on set, and I was on set for a production, and there was over 30 models, and there was only like two makeup artists. Call time was at 5 a.m. and half the models still didn't even have their makeup done. And photographers was already shooting, video was already going, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna just do my own makeup. And then I did my makeup, and all the models was like, you should have done my makeup. You should have done my makeup. And I'm just like, that was the turning point for me. So, I picked up the trade. I learned some skills. I had to learn color theory. That's the big thing. And it just went up from there. I had a lot of downs, and, some people I probably owe some do-overs for when I first started. But, I learned very different things, and not just makeup artistry, but also the business side of it, because it's not just about doing makeup. There's also a business side of the technique, the career choice in that aspect. But I did also take business classes in school. So I knew like a lot of marketing skills. I knew a lot of technology, computer, all of that stuff. Again, I'm a jack of all trades. If I have my mindset on something, I'm going to master it.
So to pivot a little bit here, you are of Haitian descent, correct?
Yes, I
What
am.
is Haitian representation like in the entirety of the industry? Like, do you see a lot of Haitian representation in modeling, makeup, photographers, designers, like, or is it a really like small and niche community?
You know what? In New York, there's a lot of Haitian representation, whether it's modeling, photography, makeup artistry. But I feel like that's just the hub of New York because it's so diverse and cultural. But as far as around the world, I'm always seeing or meeting people who are, of a Caribbean descent, or either born there or here, or their parents. But in New York base, it's kind of pretty heavily here in New York.
Interesting. What would you say distinguishes the Haitian energy, right? Like when you think about contributions to modeling, makeup, is it a particular like trope of like a color palette or like a style of a brow, or like when it comes to modeling, is it a certain like way that you walk? Like what is it like specifically Haitian that you think is brought into the scene that way?
I don't think there's any type of style. I think the individual themselves, Haitian people are very proud people for many different reasons. And if that's passed down to you, you will know the reasons why, as being a Haitian person. I'm Haitian American, so I was born here, but I'm still very proud. I may not be fluent in, Creole, but I know about my background. I know where my parents came from. I know where my great parents came from. I can cook the food very fabulously. So if you ever want to eat, I'm your girl.
Baby, first and foremostly, your address is what? Send it to us after this chat. I will be knock knock. I am there first thing tomorrow. I am expecting a full plate. Thank you very much. My goodness.
The kitchen is already brewing the dishes right now as we speak. But I would say that is the thing. Haitian people, we are a very proud culture, and we let people know, I don't know if you're aware, January 1st is Haitian Independence Day. We have
I did not know that.
we have a dish called soup jumu. And this dish, it was deprived from the Haitian people because back during slavery, they could not have this soup. They could not, it was too rich for them. And, now of every January 1, New Year's Eve, every Haitian person is either making that soup or they're going somewhere to get that soup. So that's something that I also pass down to my children. This is why we eat this soup. It's a very rich squash-based soup. You can make it with, meats, no meats if you like. It's very hearty and rich, and that's what we eat to celebrate, Haitian independence.
Baby, that's fabulous. I'm gonna need me a plate of that. That sounds incredible. What would you call it? Soup de jus?
Soup jumu.
Soup jumu.
I'll have to look up a recipe for that.
Baby, we'll be doing some Googling after this. Trust me. Goodness.
I was also wondering, like, as someone who's been in the business and has been, making up a lot of faces, what are some trends that you think maybe were like, oh God, what were we thinking? And were there any trends that you were like, oh, why did that go away so fast? Like that actually looked good.
You know, one thing about trends, they always come back.
Yeah.
They always come back. And I remember when I first started, like, Facebook loves to give you the best memories. And I'd be looking like, oh my gosh, they used to do like that. Like, wow. And the crazy thing is, it's like you have thicker brow or going to the slim or all slim. And a lot of things now in productions, they've been doing that type of thin brow. The 90s, 80s brow has been coming back.
Oh, I didn't
So
notice that.
that's one of the things that I have been seeing. But things always come back around. The blush, heavy blush. This past season,
Yeah, I've
blush
seen
has
that.
been a thing. Very orange and pinks, blushes, very heavy on
I
that.
really hope they don't bring back butterfly clips.
Oh, I love those little clips.
Yeah, I mean they're fine when you're in high school, but when you're like there's a
I know,
certain
right?
age where like when you see a 45-year-old actress
Right, right,
walking down
right.
the red carpet with a bunch of butterfly clips in her hair, you're like,
To be fair, I remember being like a young teenager in high school, and this is the early 2000s, and I think by that point, the whole like eyebrows tweezed to within an inch of their life was starting to be on the way out, but
Hmm.
also using foundation as lipstick to try and like thin out your lips was still part of the vibe. So it's one of those things where like I have a very strong memory of like teenage girls looking like teenage girls, and then going to school one day and being like, teenage girls will be looking like aliens. Like, what happened? What are they on bald face, no eyebrows, no lips? Like it was wild. And then of course, like goth went away, transformed into emo. Like you're right, it's so
Hmm.
interesting. And like kids today really seem to be getting into like the 90s aesthetic. Like they're wearing
Hmm.
chokers and slap bracelets like they were the ones who invented that shit. And I'm
Right,
oh good,
right.
those came back.
yeah,
Yes.
please. It is back.
Ugh.
It is back.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh
but
Hmm.
Pogs haven't come back yet, have they? Because when that happens, I think that's when I'm gonna have to check out.
no, but in saying that, now Pokemon trading card game is an app on the phone, you know?
It
So it's
is.
like
Uh-huh.
trends they do, you absolutely right. Trends they do. They come round and roundabouts.
Hmm.
You know what though? Let me zoom in on something here because you had mentioned you had done some business classes. You are a businesswoman. And this is something I think we should dig into a little bit here because you know what? I've said this in a previous thing. We are in the hustle culture. I think that is wonderful that a lot of people are looking to break away from the monotony and they want to do their own thing and be their own boss. And I think that's fantastic. But baby, you're looking to create a business. You're not just looking to do like, oh, throw it out there half-heartedly and be all disappointed when it doesn't come back. Of course it didn't come back to you.
Right.
You need to do what you needed to do. So like
Right.
on that notion of like business development, what in your experience has been like the number one thing in terms of building your business and sustaining your business? And what do you say is like the number one thing like when you first got into all of this that you wish someone had given you the heads up about?
The number one thing is having a business plan. It doesn't have to go according to your plan, but you definitely want to have some type of outline of where you want to go. A timeline on whether it's I want to make this money from day one to day 90 or from day one to day 365. This is where I want to be. Definitely have that business outline. I had to tell someone, when starting a business, be organized with your receipts because you have to file taxes and file your taxes quarterly. Don't wait till the year ends because that's when you're scrambling. That would be my number one thing because when I first started out, I'm like, this is too much. Maybe I should close my business because I was getting notifications. Hey, you didn't file quarterly taxes. You didn't file this, and I'm just like, so. And when starting out, you don't necessarily have to have a tax person, in the very beginning, but eventually, if you grow to a bigger size, have a reliable tax person who knows their stuff and keep yourself organized with your receipts because you can go on a trip it'd be a vacation trip, and I could be walking down the hallway in my hotel, and someone's like, "Oh, I like your makeup," and I always say now. I used to not say this, but I say, "Oh, I'm a makeup artist. Here's my card." You never know. They would call you or while you're on vacation, say, "Hey, can you do my makeup?" Guess what? I'm writing off that whole trip now. Now this is a business trip.
Talk about it. Listen, I understand, this idea of we think to ourselves, oh, we want to be presenting as humble because we don't want to come across as braggadocious, but we talked about that with Miss Fatima Tania, and she was saying humble is not the word you want in your vocabulary when it comes to your business, because to be humble is to present a false estimation of what you can do and who you are. And if that's the energy you bring to your business, someone knocks on your door and says, Miss Naïsha, I love your makeup, and then you turn around and you're like, oh no, it's go.
Right. I used to just be like, "Oh, thank you." Anytime my sister was with me, she'd be like, "She's a makeup artist." I'd be like,
But
I don't know why I was that way, but I'm like, I could have had more opportunities had I opened my mouth, because closed mouths don't get fed.
100%.
So,
That if I'd known then what I know now, it would have been, bitch, shut the fuck up and get to doing, get to talking.
right.
Life is too short, and people are out here giving you your flowers already.
Yeah,
Go ahead and make yourself a bouquet and sniff the roses and have a good old time.
of course.
When we were looking up some interviews that you've done in the past, you said there are no rules. I'm here to guide inspiration. What inspires you?
Yeah.
Now, come on now, we told you we was going to do it, baby.
There are no rules. I am here to guide inspiration. When I was starting up, I'm like, what am I here for? Why am I doing this? And what are my clients are going to need me for? I didn't want to be in a box, I just want to be able to help you express yourself. So people hit me up and they're like, "Oh, I want to do XYZ look," and I'm just like, "Okay, we can do that, but how about we try this?" And a lot of times that works. So that is something I definitely stick by, because it's like, I see you, but I want you to see you. So let me help you transform into the person that you really are supposed to be. So that's really my whole thing behind that. Like, I'm just here to guide you into your place of calling, what you are really supposed to be. I'm not trying to put you where I want you to be. I want you to really see you as I see you. When you sit in my chair, you're not just getting your makeup done. And I know a lot of other makeup artists can say that, but then some people get in a makeup artist chair and they don't leave feeling satisfied. They don't leave feeling happy. So when a lot a lot of times I'll get clients, they're in my chair, they fall asleep. Because that's just how calming the aura may be, and you never know, they may need that rest. you know they get in there, and I don't play like harsh music, not harsh, but I don't play like uppity music. I keep it calm and relaxing. Now if you fall asleep to the point where I can't do my makeup, I might change the playlist a little bit. But when you come, it's inviting. It's open arms. Lay everything out. You're here to relax. You're here to get a makeup application, but also relax and do all that stuff. So sometimes I might be a counselor. What happens in the chair stays in the chair.
And you know what? Let's put it out there, girlie. You are the outstanding makeup artist of the year, and I believe 3-time nominated and 2-time winner. Is that right?
Am I 3 times? No, I'm 2 times nominated, 2 times winner.
Baby,
Yeah.
nominated both times, won both times. Come on now.
So nominations are open now again. So let's see if we can add another one over there.
Baby, good things come in 3, don't they?
They sure do.
They sure do. So, I believe at this time of posting, nominations are open now, and the voting process is going to be all underway, y'all. So y'all better be out there voting for the fabulous people for 2025 and getting into it. But ahead of that, You are our 2024 winner. And I want to ask you, uh, prior victories aside, what does it do for you to know that you are a part of this plus size legacy?
You know what? It's so crazy. So the first year I attended, I was there. I did makeup artists. I mean makeup. I did makeup for people who were nominated, who attended, and I attended. And people were like, "Why were you nominated?" I'm like, "I don't know. Y'all didn't nominate me." So I think the next year, I think they changed the nominations a little bit. I still didn't nominate myself. I was nominated and I won. That was 2023. And then 2024, 2023, I worked hard because I was like, and even in 2024, I still worked hard, but I also scaled back a little bit because I was pregnant. So half the year, I really didn't do much. I dibbled and dabbled here and there. I was very quiet, because I was going through pregnancy and all that stuff. So when November came around, I'm like, I'm just here to do some clients and show up and be happy and support everyone else because I really don't think I'm taking this out. So when my name was called, I sat there like, so it's thrilling and honorable to see that my community that, I focus on is in the full figured industry, that they see me and they see the work that I'm doing and they see the work that I continue doing. But I have done a lot of work and I continue to do a lot of work. I continue to, keep my rapport with my clients, whether it's on productions, whether it's in the pageants, whether it's, one-on-one. I still try to keep that going around. And to be honest, I don't do much marketing on myself. A lot of the times, my referrals are by word of mouth. Like, I don't do no social media marketing. I barely post anything. I If you want to catch me in my stories because that's where I'm at. My feed, I really don't post. I used to do like befores and afters and all that stuff. And I used to do my own personal videos, which I think I'll get back into that because that was just fun for me, doing transition videos. But word of mouth has been my number one support, my number one business card. Aside from me, walking in the street, that has been it. So that shows like my name is out there. Not to toot my own horn, but to toot.
Baby, that's what the
It's
conversation today is all about. We're talking about
yeah, it's out
content.
there. So it's very shocking sometimes because I'm just like, I don't want to be too humbled, but it my work shows for itself. I don't know what else to say.
Work shows. And again, something else we covered with Miss Tondra before, she expressed that a lot of her clients are word of mouth referrals, and a lot of that good work comes down to the person you are, and, your talent don't mean nothing if you've got no business sense, if you don't know how to be with
Mhm,
people in the room, because
mhm.
that's who they're working with, and they don't want to work with you if you like that. So clearly,
Right.
with you, there is an energy and an essence of calm, of capable, of, as you say, it speaks for itself. It advances whether or not the marketing is made there because your work is clear and evident, girlie. No wonder you are a two-time and potentially three-time winner. We'll see. Come on,
We
roll on
shall
top of the
see. We shall see. I'm always shocked because, I'm in this industry and then, when names pop up and I'm just like, some people I haven't seen before, and, there's many different reasons where we are. But just being honest, some people I just don't see. So you would think you would come across because the industry is, it's still small, but it's still very large. And I don't come cross paths with certain people very frequently. I don't. No.
Now, girlie, I need to ask you something here, and we love to ask everybody this because I am so intent
Okay.
on knowing about the food side of things. And you talked about soup jumu, which I think is fabulous. What food gives you life, and what food brings you peace?
So the food that brings me life, I was gonna say like avocado. I love avocados. Love them. I can eat them, especially with being Haitian. We Certain avocados we'll eat with dinner. We'll eat with breakfast. We'll eat with lunch. But you can eat it in a salad. I like to like if I'm having an avocado for breakfast, I like to put a little bay seasoning on it. Or I'll eat it plain. I don't have to have the season, but I would definitely say avocado. I love avocados. And the food that brings me peace. I love some milk chocolate. And you know what's crazy? I was telling Valentine's just passed. Don't give me no fancy chocolate because I'm not gonna like it. Give me Hershey's and let me be happy. It don't have to have no nuts, no nothing, just plain Hershey's. I remember when I was a little girl, I think it was Christmas, the big Hershey's drop, huge. And I wanted to eat it so bad. And it was like Christmas night, and I fell asleep with it and woke up with melted chocolate over. I was so devastated. That's how bad I love. It's Hershey's chocolate. You know, Hershey's, you want to, pin me on the side. I would gladly accept. But yeah, Hershey's chocolate gives me peace for sure.
So I was wondering what aspects of plus size everything, gets too much shine, and what do you think we need to see more of?
I mean, we can never get too much. We don't get enough shine. How about that? I don't think there's anything that gets too much. Honestly, don't. I feel like everyone's out here. They're working hard. I feel as though there's some people that don't get enough shine. There's some people, and I hate to say it, it's like I don't want to see this person all the time. There's a lot of talent out there, and they give you that theory of in the grocery store with all the loaves of bread in the aisle. There's so many to choose from. And it's like, you like what you like, but guess what? Everyone is out here eating. There's enough for everyone to eat. So I don't think there's too much but I feel like there's maybe too little of people, maybe they just haven't realized their potential or other people haven't realized their potential. And those people need to be pushed, motivated, guided into, where they should really be.
And so to sort of round or to bring it all to a close, what's next for you? And what do you want to do after this? Like what's the biggest thing on the horizon for you?
Well, what's next for me is I want to definitely start my own cosmetics, something small. 2025 just began, and I kind of am on a momentum because, again, in 24, I was very dormant. My February was fabulous. I modeled on the Tamron Hall show. And I also was a makeup artist for the two other models. So that kind of was like, all right. I don't even know how that fell in my lap, but it did. And I'm like, I want to keep that momentum going. So I definitely don't want to scale back. I want to keep going. I definitely want to, because me putting out my cosmetics line has been something I've been working on for like 4 years now. Not easy, but I need to get that push. And again, I want to get back into being more active on social media, whether it's doing my own videos or showing my client videos, but I want to be more in the forefront, more personal in that aspect. So those are the things I feel like I'm going to be pushing in 2025. My cosmetics and, just putting my face back out there for people to see.
Naïsha, thank you so much for today. This was a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, where can viewers find you online?
So you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, as well as Facebook at Naïsha Yolande. My name is the same on all three platforms. And then if you need to reach me by email, my email is Naïsha Yolande, the MUA at gmail.com. My site is there. It's just under construction because I'm redoing some things, but it is NaïshaYolandeBeauty.com.
Well, that's a wrap for now. Here with this week's full figured interview. You can find me on Instagram at Stam.
And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc.
Now, please like this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Comment below and let us know your thoughts on today's conversation. Share the video with your friends and encourage them to tune in next week where we'll be speaking with more full-figured excellence right here on the channel. So until then, have a great week, y'all.